What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. You know, I remember back in 2006, 7, and 8 when we had the recession, a real recession, an economic meltdown where it seems like everything was going bad at the same time, including for yours truly. And at the time, it seemed like the end of the world because for me personally, I had basically lost everything, right? Coming out of high school, some of y'all may not know, shortly after I graduated at around 18, 19 years old, I was making around $120,000 a year. And part of the reason for that is because I had got hired into the plant. My brother had got me into the plant, and I was working at Local 600 for the steel mill. And times was good, and I was spending money, having a good time. And back then, $120,000 in the year 2001, 2002 was awesome. It was incredible for me. And of course, I didn't know it at the time, and I thought that the money would roll in forever. And I had this idea that I would eventually transition into software engineering, but I was going to do it on my time. And so I put all of my eggs in one basket, and I was working at the steel mill in Local 600. And a lot of y'all know that I tell a story about how I still have friends that work at Local 600 and family members, right? But eventually it came to a point to where I had lost my job and the economy just so happened to be crashing at the same time. And so the manufactured housing crisis that bankers got away with, and that I believe also was incentivized by the Bush administration, the second one, and then the Clinton administration had also sold our jobs away. And so we were in a time where it was basically tumultuous for everybody. We had become too big to fail from a banking perspective, and we wasn't making anything from a manufacturing perspective. And, you know, everything just went kapoosh, right? And so we had basically a reset. And I remember at that time that I felt a certain way. I remember seeing the flower shop, and they had this costume, and it was Wesley Berry at the time, and it had this bee costume, and people were so desperate for income and desperate for jobs that people were practically fighting over getting into that bee costume. It was it was crazy. Anything you could do, you did do. For me, I wound up having a reset. I went broke at the time. And then my daughter was born in 2008, February 2008. So it was like a double whammy because I was married and I had a daughter and I was trying to figure it out. And so I reset, right? I got 2 full-time jobs. One of them was a sales job. I was working overnight in retail, restocking and stuff like that. And I went back to school. And then I went to community college, went back to school full-time. And so I transitioned over to software engineering. I took the knowledge that I had and I started to be a little bit more intentional with what I did with my resources, which then transitioned into who you see today, right? So I am very much in a great position, and I learned from my mistakes. But here's the caveat about that whole story. At that time, there were people that were basically offing themselves because their portfolio had took such a hit and it had went down. And I remember reading stories because I actually used to go to the store and I would get 2 newspapers. I would get the Wall Street Journal, and then I would get 3 newspapers. I would get the Wall Street Journal, I would stop at the gas station, I would get the Detroit Free Press because I wanted to know what was happening on a local level, and I would get USA Today because I wanted to know what was happening on an international level, and I always wanted to stay in tune with business. And I remember reading that it was people basically offering themselves because the value of their home had tanked, and their 401ks and their portfolios and their stocks had tanked so much. And these is regular everyday people, and they just couldn't fathom going through anything or, you know, losing that much money in their portfolio or and everything like that. And there was other people that panicked, and they panic sold, you know, and they lost so much money because guess what happened? Everything eventually went back up. If you had endurance, if you was willing to endure through it, you realize that everything is cyclical and everything is going to go through ups and downs. But we're in unprecedented times to where most of these people that I see on the internet that is reacting to the Kamala Harris loss and the Trump victory, whose lives is not going to change even a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to bet that your life will significantly improve. Your earnings and your wage growth is going to go up. Inflation is going to be down. We're going to get out of these wars. We're going to run up a bag. But people are willing to leave their relationships. I've heard stories of people wanting to crash out, talking about leaving the United States of America. Cool, go ahead and do that. But here's the thing. When we was going through real problems back then, again, because it's a lot of people that's not even old enough to even know what it felt like. You was in high school, you was in middle school. Some people was born in the 2000, you know what I'm saying, 2002, and they 22 years old and 18 years old, and they just now starting to vote, and they having crash out season and stuff like that. And it's amazing to me how you not even going through nothing. You don't even know what it feels like to suffer. And you're willing to crash out over something that you can control, such as reproductive rights. It's not even removing your ability to get rid of unwanted babies in a form of contraception. And y'all are fear-mongering each other, but it shows me a couple different things. A, you spoiled, and B, you don't know nothing, and it's easy to manipulate you with media. And the Democrats have become so divisive. Obama, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, all of these people, they fear-mongered you and tried to fear vote you. And we, us logical people that have been through something, carried you through this election to do the thing that's best for you. And y'all are really willing to crash out over some dumb nonsense, and you not even realizing that we saved you from yourself because you didn't even know what suffering was. And these last 3.5 years was going to be nothing compared to what the next 4 years was going to be if we had stayed under a Democratic regime, right? But it's funny. Again, let's go back to the original story. All of the people that crashed out when we was really going through something, if they had just chilled out, they would have realized that, you know what? I shouldn't have been a crash dummy because everything came back eventually. And that was during the time when we was really going through something. And now, if y'all just go to sleep, like go and take a nap, go back to work, your life is no different today than it was 3 days ago prior to Trump winning the election. It is going to be significantly better for you. And you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to go back to the plantation, because the only plantation that's available for you right now is the Democratic plantation. And all of these stupid text messages that's flying around and all of these women that's making these crazy TikToks, go to sleep, take a nap, and do better. It's unfortunate that we are not smart enough, wise enough to actually make better decisions, considering that this is the best thing for us, A, and you don't even really know what suffering feels like. You thought what you was suffering like over the last 3.5 years was bad. Boy, let me tell you, if you was alive during 2008, 2007, and you was outside, meaning that you was an adult that didn't, you know what I'm saying, you had to fend for yourself and get to the bag, you would really know what that's like. But we gonna continue to drag them across the finish line. I would encourage y'all not to be crash dummies, and don't put yourself in a situation where God really got to show you what it's like to suffer before you realize that you got it good. That's my words of encouragement for you today. It's Friday. Let's get to it. Make sure y'all tap into the Millionaire Morning Show. It's gonna be awesome. I got some great things lined up. I got my homegirl flying in order to make sure that she gonna come in and redo everything in the studio. So towards the end of the year, we reset our goals. I got Stock Club coming up this weekend. So if you're a bag chaser, if you're a Patreon member, that link is in the description for you to sign up. Make sure you tap into the Discord of any of the most recent videos. The link to the Discord is in the description of the Patreon. And then last but not least, make sure you get your tickets to come and kick it with me December 14th in Detroit. It's going to be a great show. I love you. I appreciate you. Don't be a crash dummy. Anton got work to do. I don't know if y'all can see my setup. I got work to do over here. And we about to get it popping, all right? We got a whole, life goes on. We got a whole set of things that we got to work on without y'all being crash dummies. Be smart, be wise. Don't be stupid. Don't leave your relationships, and don't quit your job. You can go and move to Canada or Mexico and see what it's really like, though. It's people that's leaving there that's trying to get here and you trying to go over there because you think you're doing us a favor. Okay, all right. Listen, be smart, be wise. I love you. I appreciate you. Can't even believe that we actually having this conversation. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.